Hello, 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 bonjour. Bienvenue sur mon énième live sur TikTok. Aujourd'hui, nous allons parler pas de politique, mais vraiment d'entertainment, de divertissement à l'américaine. Et on va parler des épisodes de la chute de Diddy. Bon, j'ai trouvé une chaîne qui le faisait. Abonnez-vous, likez, partagez. J'espère que vous m'entendez. Si vous êtes go, je suis prêt. C'est parti. Ça sera en anglais, mais il y aura le sous-titre français, puis on va commenter tout ça. Alors, je vais mettre le son à fond. Et on va argumenter, évidemment. Là, on voit bien la plaine d'Hollywood, où c'est marqué Hollywood. On voit bien le quartier d'Hollywood Boulevard. Enfin, le quartier d'Hollywood Boulevard, t'as compris. 2010. Beyoncé, Cher, Taylor Swift, Tiffen, Justin Bieber. Voilà, donc il montre bien, là c'est vraiment l'épisode 1, et là il montre bien, je l'avais regardé hier, mais je me rappelle plus trop, mais en tout cas c'est bien le documentaire sur Diddy. Bonjour. Bonjour TOM, salut. Prenez votre popcorn, c'est le documentaire. Beverly Hills Hotel. Donc nous avons Mylène Morales qui vient parler du documentaire. Salut Victorine, bonjour. Ah, je pense qu'il a crié sur Cassie, à mon avis. Et elle, c'est une maquilleuse professionnelle, elle s'est présentée. Hein. Ah oui, excusez-moi, il n'y a pas la traduction, attendez. Ah, la traduction. Voilà, comme ça, je vais vous traduire ça, on va commenter ensemble. Traduire en français. C'est parti. Donc, normalement, ça doit traduire. Voilà. C'est en exclusivité, hein. Ah ouais. Donc, en fait, il vient à la chambre, il toque, je pense que ça doit être leur chambre, la chambre à Cassie, je pense. Et elle doit dormir, et il dit, sors. Non, c'est ça, hein.
He's being puff. And at this point, I'm just thinking of her safety. And so I'm packing her stuff up. Once he leaves, I see the aftermath on Cassie. She has knots on her head.
Ouais, donc leur altercation à l'hôtel, hein. Elle a les cheveux toutes ébouriffés.
It was horrific. And so all I could think of was, we need to get back to my house. We need to get the fuck out of here. We can't call the police. We can't go to the hospital. We're scared of Puff. We're always scared of him.
Donc il utilise la technique de l'intimidation et le gaslighting, mais plus la technique de l'agressivité de l'intimidation pour se faire entendre. Hein.
What would happen? He's a very powerful person in the business, and he can do things that will make you go away. And many people are afraid of him till this day. So what were we supposed to do? We just had to fix whatever was happening at that moment. And that's kind of how the business is. I called my friend who's a doctor.
J'aimais bien sa coupe à la fille, là. La pauvre.
Oh. And I'm like, you have to take care of Cass.
Salut tout le monde.
It's not okay. You have to be a witness to this because we can't call anyone.
Ah, fallait pas appeler la police, attention.
I felt like this has happened before because she was so nonchalant about it. Cassie and I never spoke about that incident after.
Voilà.
It's family business.
Donc il y avait un incident, ils l'ont jamais parlé. C'est bizarre, hein, c'est vraiment bizarre.
Talk about it.
Pourquoi ils préviennent pas, quoi?
Was in 2010. And then in 2024, I watched the CNN video and I was completely triggered because I did not know that this was going on for all these years.
Technique du manipulateur pervers narcissique.
Worldwide music mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs facing a slew of allegations, including rape and sex trafficking, in a stunning new civil lawsuit filed by his longtime partner, singer Cassie.
FBI agents raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami.
The embattled rap mogul is in custody after he was arrested last night in the lobby of a luxury.
Ouais, il a été arrêté en bas d'un hôtel. Il a été arrêté tout en bas d'un hôtel. Un hôtel de luxe de Manhattan.
Cassie coming forward was a tipping point.
Several new accusers coming forward against Sean Diddy Combs.
Accusing Combs of abusing, threatening, and coercing women for years.
He was very good at standing in the limelight without us actually taking a look deeper and seeing who he is and what he is about.
Yeah, but hip-hop is not just music. It's a lifestyle.
Combs has built an empire. There's his Sean John fashion line, his Ciroc vodka.
Voilà, Chat John. Donc sa ligne de vêtements, c'était bien Chat John, quoi.
Work he founded.
He didn't change to adapt to the world. He changed the world to adapt to him.
Here he is, a shining
Donc non
example.
seulement c'est un rappeur qui a un célèbre rappeur qui a changé le rap aux US, qui a vraiment montré une vraie image du hip-hop dans le monde entier. C'est vraiment le pionnier en hip-hop moderne, quoi. C'est vraiment lui qui a propulsé le rap universel. Mais il avait aussi un sale caractère, quoi.
Of what he likes to term black excellence. Meanwhile, there's all this violence and trauma happening in the background.
I realized I wasn't the only one.
I have a one-of-one story that no one else has.
That reckoning, it's coming. Everybody is demanding to know, how far did this go? Time is up.
Rappelons qu'il y a son procès au mois de mai. Hein. Il a son procès au mois de mai. Hein. Rappelons-le. Hein.
Sean Puffy Combs' power has led to one of the most successful careers in the history of American pop.
Voilà, l'un des plus réussis.
And it has led to some really, really, really awful other things.
Voilà, sa première femme, qui ressemble à Cassie. Hein. Sa première femme. Hein.
As a journalist and as an editor. I was the first woman editor-in-chief of Vibe.
Non, excusez-moi, c'était la première journaliste. Mais elle ressemble trop à sa première femme. En fait, sa première copine ressemblait à Cassie. De toute façon, il le montre ça dans l'épisode 2. Je vous ferai un live dessus. Première rédactrice en femme du magazine Vibe. Salut tout le monde.
And I'm also sharing it because of my unique position in music history. This is where I'm supposed to be. It was very difficult to work in the music media without having to deal with, or work with, or hang out with, or negotiate with Sean Puffy Combs.
Et vous allez voir, parce que comme j'ai regardé le documentaire, après il va l'agresser après. Parce que je sais pas, elle était pas d'accord, parce qu'elle voulait pas publier le magazine. Ça respectait pas le protocole du magazine. Enfin, il y avait des règles qui respectaient pas le protocole. Donc du coup, il s'est énervé et tout. Vous allez voir après.
The first time I had a real conversation with him was a cover shoot for Vibe, and that would have been right around September 1997. It was to be the December-January double issue of Vibe magazine. Everybody was at the photo shoot. A bunch of people from Vibe, a bunch of people from the Bad Boy universe. The idea was to get Mr. Combs into some angel wings. After the shoot,
Ah, c'est pas quelqu'un qui mérite des ailes d'ange. Il voulait faire le magazine où il mettrait Monsieur Combs et des ailes d'ange derrière. On verra qu'est-ce qu'il a contrarié.
It was policy for us not to show covers to anyone before they
Ah,
were
ouais,
published.
ouais, ouais. Une politique un peu bizarre, genre la personne elle fait des photos et tu dois publier sa photo dans les magazines. C'est bien de voir avant. Et eux, c'était contre leur politique. Trop bizarre.
He called me at my office. I told him again, we don't show the covers, we don't share the story. I told him that I wouldn't be making an exception. And he said that he would see me dead in the trunk if I did not show it to him.
Que quoi, il va lui mettre dans le coffre et il dit non, je ne montrerai pas.
I said to him, you need to take that back. He said something to the effect of, he wasn't taking shit.
Ah oui, genre en fait, elle a dit elle va pas mettre la couverture. L'autre a dit comment dire, si tu montres pas la photo, je vais te mettre dans le coffre. Elle a dit non, c'est contre notre politique. Ouais.
So then I said, I'm calling my attorney. And my attorney called him to say that if he didn't immediately fax over an apology, my attorney was going to reach out to law enforcement. And I think it took about 90 minutes to 2 hours, and I received that faxed apology. What I've only recently come to realize through members of the staff at that time was that he had actually, in the days before, come up to the Vibe offices with 2 tough guys looking.
À un moment, vous allez voir, après que l'avocat de la fille lui a dit, sinon, voilà, si vous arrêtez pas de menacer ma cliente, je vais appeler les forces de l'ordre. Il va venir avec 2 gros gardes du corps et tout.
In order for my safety and in order for the magazine pages to remain intact, I was shuttled from office to office until the coast was clear and waited outside, standing on the corner with the proofs, the pages of the magazine that were being prepared to go to print. And then my managing editor came down
Tapoter pour
and got
stabiliser le
the
live.
pages for me and put me in a cab to Brooklyn. But the thing is...
Et après qu'on l'a pris, on l'a mis dans le taxi. Ces gardes du corps l'ont pris, on l'a mis dans le taxi. Quoi? Je pense que ça se passe comme ça. Après, je me souviens plus. Je sais pas si P. Diddy était dans le taxi ou pas. À vous de voir, je sais pas.
Now, I have no memory of any of that happening.
Faites-moi un signe si vous m'entendez, hein, si vous attendez le docu. Hein.
When my research chief was telling me this story, I was just like, literally, like, I don't remember. I was telling her. And she said, of course you don't. You blacked it out. You were terrified. Because I don't remember it right now. It's hard to look back. I continued to work with him. I continued to be cordial with him. To be invited to parties and go. Sometimes it's very hard not to feel complicit. I wish that things were different. Is he an angel? Is he a devil? It's a question that I've had since we put him on the cover in the wings. I didn't know, but we might know now. And you hate to see it.
As a reporter, Danielle's story really resonated with me. What's really unusual is the extent that Diddy went to. He was determined to try to bully her, and this was relatively early in his career. And so it definitely appears that Diddy continued to get more brazen. We now know behind the curtain there were demons, but you can't escape your demons that easily.
When I think of Puffy, I think of New York. Puffy is the Horatio Alger, up from nothing to something, the rags to riches story.
Diddy was born in Harlem to his mother Janice.
Donc là, on a fini de parler de sa couverture dans Vice. Maintenant, on va parler de son enfance à Harlem.
Melvin.
Voilà. Père Melvin, mère Janice.
Could dance, could dress, sharp as a tack, fly, hustler, go get it, ambitious. I think of her as the queen of that energy.
Unfortunately, his father, Melvin, passed. Sean didn't have any memories of Melvin. He might have had one or two.
Melvin died when he was a
Des fois, quand je
toddler.
regarde les photos des parents, je me demande, Diddy, il ressemble à qui? Est-ce qu'il a les yeux de son père, la bouche de la mère? Aucune idée. Tous les deux sourient, donc je sais pas. Franchement, je sais pas, je peux pas vous dire. On continue.
Diddy has often spoke about the loss of a father figure in his life, just this desire to know who Melvin was. When Combs talks about his father, you can tell in his voice, in his face, that he really mourns the loss of not having his father in his life.
You know what I'm saying? I always wanted to hear like the sound in his voice. From the beginning, I've always had like tragedy around me. Janice was a single mother and had to make it work.
Janice said, okay, we're moving out to Mount Vernon, that suburban area that black people with some money, middle class, are able to move to.
I met Sean when I was 6 years old, and we lived 13 steps from each other, one staircase. I didn't have a sibling.
Voilà, un ami d'enfance.
So that's what we became. First impression of meeting him, this kid is different. He was a young boy dressed like an older man, tailor-made. And I didn't know kids this small.
Donc, en fait, sa mère ont déménagé d'un quartier à un autre. Et lui, c'était l'un des premiers gars enfants à l'avoir vu. Et il s'habillait mieux que les autres déjà.
Could really like beat his fly. So when he stepped outside, other kids looked at him like, what's that? He got everything we don't have. And people don't like that. So now he's a product of bullying. He had a presence of somebody you could just roll over. And that's what people tried to do. Simple as that.
At an early age, it was instilled in him that he can't be seen as weak, and the only way to respond to weakness, or this idea that you're being perceived as weak, is to respond with force.
My mother was, I guess, raising me for the real world. She always told me if somebody hit me, make sure I hit them back harder. Make sure they never hit me again.
Sa mère l'encourage à la violence ou pas? Je sais pas, faut m'expliquer.
I fucked them up.
And sure, listen, don't come here talking about you got beat up. Don't come here talking about somebody took something from you. I don't want to hear none of that. Go get it back. You can't come in my house until it's right. So he had to make a choice. He had to man up. So I'm going to make more than you. I'm going to do more than you. I'm going to be more successful than you so I can call the shots. He was groomed for success.
I was really inspired by him growing up. You see this guy, he comes from Harlem, he puts hip-hop.
Moi, je me rappelle l'un des premiers titres que j'ai découvert chez lui, c'était I'll Be Missing You avec Faith Evans. Mais de Puff Daddy, j'ai connu Puff Daddy à P. Diddy avec Last Night, mais j'ai pas suivi tous ses titres et tout ça. Mais je me rappelle quand il avait sorti I'll Be Missing You. C'est tout le souvenir que j'avais en fait.
Map, then he grows into a business mogul. And so before all of these issues came to light, there's not a negative thing that I would have said about Diddy.
This version of Sean Combs that we're seeing today is a complete departure from this image that he curated and built himself up. I first began covering Sean Puffy Combs right after Cassie filed her lawsuit back in 2023. The biggest question for me was, has this happened before? And as we began investigating and speaking with more people, we uncovered a history of abusive behavior that dates back to Diddy's days at Howard University. There just seems so much more to the story.
Take what? What?
Apparemment, ces violences remontent à l'université. Il avait frappé, je sais pas, sa première copine, je crois.
At Howard University in the late 80s, and I am here today to share what I know.
Oui, voilà, je me rappelle. En fait, l'histoire qu'ils m'ont raconté, c'est en fait, il vient avec voir sa copine, il dit ouais, sors d'ici, sors d'ici. Qu'est-ce que t'as fait encore? Puis tu sais, à son pantalon, il y a une ceinture, donc il sort la ceinture. Je pense qu'il prend une boule de la ceinture, il commence à la frapper avec. Et il y a une meuf et un gars, ils viennent et puis ils descendent, ils disent oui, qu'est-ce que tu fais? Arrête, arrête. Et ils ont pas pu s'interposer pour l'empêcher puis il a continué à la frapper en fait. C'est l'histoire.
Sean Puffy Combs was well known on campus. He would ride on the back of cars, throwing out flyers for parties. If you wanted to go to the hottest party, then you saw and heard Sean Puffy Combs. I am absolutely nervous about sharing what I've seen him do to another human being. He's powerful. And he's scary.
Allez voir la suite de ce que je vous raconte, c'est vrai.
This event, honestly, is so vivid to me. The night began with me in my dorm room. We heard someone yelling and screaming. So we pushed up the window just enough to get a little idea what was going on. We saw that it was Sean Puffy Combs, a fellow student. And he was screaming, "Get your ass downstairs, come downstairs right now." And he had taken his belt off and he was whipping the wall. Mad, angry. They were connected somehow romantically. And when she came downstairs, timidly and scared and really not knowing what to do, he started beating on her, whipping her with that belt.
Il descend puis il la fouette avec la ceinture. Moi, je parie qu'il l'a fouetté avec la boucle de la ceinture. Vraiment, il l'a battu à mort, quoi.
Now we're involved because now he's abusing her. So
La beauté, stabiliser le live.
stop hitting on her. Leave her alone. He's yelling back, "Mind your business. Mind your fucking business." But we're yelling back. Get off of her. Leave her the fuck alone. He pushes her back into the doorway of the dorm. We don't know what's going on in that space. We can't see. Whatever he's doing takes a few minutes before he actually stops whatever he's doing, and then he leaves alone. And she follows out a little bit behind that. Our 18-year-old selves yelled for her. Maybe we could have stopped it. Maybe we should have called the police, called our dorm mother. Got somebody else involved. The front desk was downstairs. They didn't do anything. Nobody really actually came to her rescue like we probably should have.
Et personne n'est venu à la rescousse, quoi. Personne n'est venu les aider.
That's very important.
C'était l'une de ses premières violences. Retenez bien que l'une de ses premières violences, c'était à l'université, en bas du campus. Vraiment, c'était l'une de ses premières violences, quoi.
Because he was never held accountable.
Instead of becoming tarnished in any way, his time at Howard becomes a key part of his mythology.
Howard didn't just change my life, it entered my soul, it entered my heart, it entered my being, my spirit.
When he got an honorary doctorate, no less, I was a little bit hot about that. How would you honor someone like that?
And even though I only completed 2 years here at Howard.
Mais en fait, il faut honorer quelqu'un par son intelligence, c'est les études qu'il a fait, pas par son comportement. Moi, ça me semble logique. Pas vous?
It's 2 years of my life.
Howard is where Combs saw firsthand how much sway he had with people.
So despite what people saw on campus, he's still able to succeed.
Et après, je pense que dans cet épisode 1 que j'ai regardé d'avance, il y aura un truc aussi où il va travailler genre pour Clive Davis, non, pour un mec. Avant Clive Davis pour un mec sur un autre studio. Uptown Records, c'était vraiment le premier studio, le premier label aux USA hip-hop. C'était vraiment le pionnier, le premier. Je crois qu'il y avait Jay-Z dedans, je suis pas sûre, mais c'était vraiment le premier Uptown Records. Et puis Sean Combs travaillait pour un directeur artistique, un Léa. Et peu de temps après, il l'a viré. Et c'est là qu'en fait, Clive Davis, c'est vraiment le producteur de Whitney Houston, Clive Davis l'a repris. Clive Davis l'a repris. Et c'est de là qu'il lui a donné de l'argent pour qu'il monte son propre label Bad Boy. Vous allez voir après.
Like it or not, rap is here to stay.
In the late 80s, when hip hop was growing, that's the exact same time that Sean Puffy Combs was figuring out who he was going to be.
I was working with some artists at a company called Uptown Records. I heard that there was a young guy helping some of the artists to define themselves.
His name was Sean Puffy Combs. Uptown Records was one of the early black labels, and Andre Harrell was at
Voilà,
the
André
helm.
Harrell à la tête de Uptown Records.
And why Puffy wanted to work with them, because they were the it back then. And Puffy dropped out of school to follow his dream.
When he did his internship at Uptown, he clearly had a ton of ideas. And so they gave him an A&R job. Mary J. Blige, who had been at Uptown and had not been catching on, they did not know what to do with her. Here comes Puff, and he's putting all these pieces in place around her, also shaping the image. He gives
Et Mary J. Blige, comme il dit, donc c'était l'une des premières à arriver chez Uptown. Et c'est comme P. Diddy, Puff Daddy avait plein d'idées dans la tête, donc ils l'ont pris. Et apparemment, il l'aurait façonné, apparemment.
hip-hop beats to sing under. Real Love was this massive hit.
On la surnomme la rappeuse Soul. À l'époque, on l'a surnommée la rappeuse Soul des années, fin des années 80, début des années 90.
And they called her the queen of hip-hop soul. But as much as we loved Mary, it was clear right away, Puff is at the forefront of sonically making that happen.
Puff Daddy, A&R director of Uptown. My brother, let him know how easy or how difficult or how fly or how complicated it was to put this jam together. Really, it was no problem because all my black brothers and sisters came together.
You start to see the rise of Puff in the sort of hip-hop world, and he's also doing party promotion.
Sean said, shoot, I'm going to have a celebrity basketball game with all the famous people playing. I'm going to go convince Heavy D to be my
Voilà, et c'est là que je parle de la fête basket, là. La fête basket, là, il va inviter pas mal de monde, et c'est là qu'il va proposer à lui, il va payer un billet à sa sœur va venir, après il y aura tout un drame qui va se passer autour de cette histoire. Écoutez.
I'm going to do it at City College.
My brother was at City College. And so the reason I came to tell my story today is because the incident was simply tucked under the rug.
I've been trying to make sense of such a tragic event for years.
All right, 98.7 Kiss FM. You know, there's a big basketball game tomorrow. You gonna be there, baby?
L'instant, je reviens.
A lot of people coming to play in a celebrity basketball game. Jodeci, Boyz II Men, Brand Nubian, LL Cool J.
And everyone you knew in all boroughs were talking about City College that night. I was 17 years old. I really wanted to go. Showing me the ticket. Dirk was someone to look up to. Out of our neighborhood, there was only a few of us that actually went away to college.
Holmes was dating Misa Hilton at the time. My sister Sonia and Misa were close friends. I was the big brother. Because we were so close in age, we had a real close bond. She was going to become a pediatric nurse. At the time, I had 2 young daughters, and she was totally hands-on with her nieces. She loved them deeply. The day of the event, she said she wasn't going, but Misa reached out to Sonia and told her that Puffy had a ticket for her.
Je pense que elle et Sonia étaient Donc Sonia était sa nièce et l'autre était la copine de Diddy, donc c'est comme ça qu'ils se sont connus. Et à un moment, il envoie un billet à sa, comment dire, à sa nièce. Parce qu'elle pouvait pas venir, donc il achète un billet pour absolument qu'elle vienne, quoi.
And she decided to go.
Day of City College comes, I'm a part of Sean's staff. One thing Sean knew how to do was promote. And the build up to City College was so phenomenal, it was almost like God's coming to town. The gym filled up in like a blink of an eye.
They were still selling tickets at the door, but there's still a huge crowd outside of people with
En
tickets.
fait, il y a un match de basket, ils vendaient des billets, tout ça, puis il y avait plein de monde, à chaque fois plein de monde et tout ça qui se ruait et tout ça. Bah, c'est arrivé une fois, mais je pense que souvent ils devaient faire des événements comme ça, puis les gens se ruaient pour prendre un billet, quoi.
The bouncers or whoever said, it's over. No one else is getting in. And that's when the door to the gym was closed.
So now the crowd that saw that the doors were closing, many had tickets in hand. They decided to push. And it caused a stampede going down the stairs with no way to enter the gymnasium with the 4 doors closed.
The crowd went crazy. They broke the doors.
The gym filled up in like a blink of an eye.
They were still selling tickets at the door, but there's still a huge crowd outside of people with tickets. The bouncers or whoever said, it's over.
Genre, ils vendaient tout le temps les billets à l'intérieur, mais à l'extérieur, il y avait toujours autant de monde qui attendait. Et les portes étaient fermées, c'est bizarre.
No one else is getting in. And that's when the door to the gym was closed.
So now the crowd that saw that the doors were closing, many had tickets in hand. They decided to push. And it caused a stampede going down the stairs with no way to enter the gymnasium with the 4 doors closed.
The crowd went crazy. They broke the doors, and a bunch of people just rushed down those steps and pushed them against those doors.
I'm not quite sure what door Misa went through, but she wasn't with Sonia.
My brother and his friends are in the staircase already, getting pushed.
Sonia was behind one of the young girls that was with them, and her face was in her back.
Donc, si je comprends bien, l'une des filles était tout devant, et comme la porte était fermée, ils leur ont pas donné, ils avaient les billets, ils pouvaient pas rentrer, donc je pense qu'ils ont commencé à pousser la fille. Je pense que ça s'est passé comme ça.
Imagine being packed like sardines. And if you're packed like this, there's nowhere to go.
They had to literally pull the door open, crush someone opening the door.
Puis Diddy, le mec qui organisait ça, forcément,
Crush someone opening the door.
Puis Diddy, le mec qui organisait ça, forcément, il a envie de voir.
You see just a wave of people falling on the floor, fighting to breathe.
You got PD outside not doing anything.
En fait, tout ça, ça s'est passé où était P. Diddy, quoi. Hein, trop bizarre. Ah oui, P. Diddy, il était là. Vous voyez, il était là, complètement triste, complètement apeuré, complètement imbu de lui-même.
Footage. Sean Combs, shirt open and walking around, just stressed out.
I look over, he's over there pumping chests and breathing into people's mouths. And Sonia was one of the people he was trying to resuscitate.
Dirk wasn't getting enough oxygen to his brain. When they were doing CPR on him, his chest was going down and hit the floor. And then my mother called, and then that's when I found out he was dead. She said, he's gone, Jason.
Could y'all please leave in a peaceful manner so nobody else gets hurt? It is over.
My mom and my dad and myself went back to City College to identify Sonia's body. They showed us Polaroids, and someone tried to go over the top of the crowd, and clearly in the Polaroid you can see the boot mark in Sonia's head.
La mort de Sonia, quoi.
I think Puffy bears a lot of responsibility for what happened that day because the doors remained closed. They could have been opened.
White Heavy D. Myers and Sean Puff Daddy Combs pointed the fingers at everyone but themselves.
Whatever must be done to ensure that
Et là, vous le voyez, il s'excuse de tout le mal qu'il a fait, il s'excuse. Mais le mal est déjà fait. Il y a au moins, je vous dis, 6 personnes, dont la cousine de l'autre qui est morte, en fait.
ever happens again.
I know that he and Heavy D did not intend for that day to end that way.
Puffy clearly wanted to throw the biggest, best event, and he promoted the hell out of it. But he didn't do enough to protect the crowds of people that came out.
Ouais, en fait, en gros, trop de promotion, les gens se bousculent, mais il a pas amené la sécurité, quoi. Vraiment, il est pas doué, hein.
There was a lawsuit for all the things that happened at City College.
This was a huge case. The litigation lasted years. When my mother called me and told me that the lawyers are talking about a settlement, it was like, take this money and shut up. Really, nothing mattered to me other than keeping Sonia's memory alive. And Puff wasn't hearing me, and that created a lot of tension between me and him. I said, was Sonia your friend? He didn't want to answer the question. She got the ticket from you, man. These interactions started to make me physically sick.
Un, deux. Toutes ces personnes sont mortes.
Clearly, he had no interest on helping me keep Sonia's memory alive, or the other 8.
Ah, Sonia Williams. Non, il y en avait 9.
The City College incident for Puffy was a turning point in how people began to feel about him.
He asked one time, when is this ever going to be behind me? And I said, the more good you do, this will get further and further down on the list of questions that you ask.
Diddy was able to put it behind him because he was good at creating stars and making hits.
Oui, le mec, il avait pas le temps, comme il était déjà chez Uptown Records, et puis après, il allait un peu de temps après être viré et rencontrer Clive Davis pour monter son label Bad Boy Entertainment, Mary J. Blige. Donc, du coup, il avait pas le temps pour ça, quoi.
He was succeeding, he was thriving,
Bah oui.
he was winning.
In time, he becomes too big to be working with Andre. And so Andre fired him.
Voilà, c'est ce que je vous disais. Là, il est licencié d'Uptown Records.
His gear was placed in the hallway, and they said, come get your gear. And I was like, whoa, so I guess I won't be hearing from him anymore.
When you become a millionaire at 19, you probably go crazy, act a little obnoxious. It was such a disappointment to me because I got fired by the first person that believed in me. And then,
Voilà, c'est ce que je vous dis, hein, il a été viré par lui. Hein. Ils ont posé tous ses affaires, ils les ont déposés au couloir. Normal. Normal.
Puff is having a meeting with Clive Davis about starting a label. It was said in a way of like, that is so ridiculous.
He's like the white godfather of black music for the last 50 years. He sees an opportunity to bring Sean Combs his energy and gives him his own signature label, Bad Boy.
It was incredibly significant for a young black
Voilà, donc là, c'est vraiment le plus jeune mec à créer le premier label de hip-hop. Enfin, il y avait Uptown, mais lui, c'est vraiment lui qui va révolutionner le hip-hop des États-Unis dans le monde, quoi.
have his own label, and Puffy was in his 20s. That was incredible.
Right away, Bad Boy is different than other labels. This is coming from the energy of
Et
the
puis, il y a de l'énergie, puis il va écrire sur les cryptos, il va dire, oui, donc dormir, c'est pour les nuls, quoi. Alors, il va dire, dormir, c'est pour les nuls.
I remember going into Bad Boy, and there was words painted on the wall. Sleeping is for losers.
Yo, bust your asses. I'll go back in the studio. Y'all just pay for me to go back in the studio. Yo, and tell me exactly what you want.
I was his first publicist. One day, Mr. Davis called me at my desk. He said, LaJoyce, from this day forward, I want you to garner press for Puffy. And I also understood the assignment to protect the black boy genius. Puffy was such a visionary. Everything that he touched would eventually turn to gold and platinum.
Man, it's going, it's on, dog.
Every single day, and I mean with no exaggeration, Puffy would call me between 2:15 and 4 o'clock. What's going on? What's happening with the artist? Who's going to be appearing on what television show? I have an idea. And he'd leave it to you to execute. Oh, by the way, in 48 hours.
Voilà, depuis à ce moment-là, c'est là qu'il a tous les pouvoirs au moins de son label, quoi. On l'a viré et puis là, il recrée. Enfin, Clive Davis lui donne l'occasion de créer son propre label et d'être maître du jeu. Et puis, elle devient son attachée de presse. Et tous les jours, elle l'appelle et tout. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Quel acteur a sorti son clip? Qui est passé à la télé? Je veux tout savoir. C'est un truc de dingue, quoi. À seulement 20 ans, quoi. Il devient millionnaire grâce à son studio Bad Boy. Et vous verrez qu'après d'autres stars comme... non, comment dire? Comment ça s'appelle? Easy... comment il s'appelle? Jay-Z, après il y avait Biggie Small. Désolé, les noms m'échappent. Hein. Mais vous verrez par la suite, il y aura Biggie Small et après il y aura le clash avec Tupac. Ouais.
The year for Bad Boy is 1994. Craig Mack drops Flavor in Your Ear. Flavor in Your Ear was something that I made up.
Yeah, I sampled some crazy sounding. Well, listen.
Et puis lui, il crée un son et ça va faire le son d'un tube, vous verrez.
Don't.
Then on the hook, I threw that loud siren in. It's special. I knew it was special. Puff was like, yo, I need some tracks for my new artist, Craig Mack. So I showed up with this tape. He played it. He said, yo, I will cut you a check for that, right?
Voilà, et Didi lui fait un chèque parce qu'il a créé ce son. Tout de suite, il fait un chèque et puis il dit, tu veux? Je dis, bah ouais, pourquoi pas.
You know what I said, right? Sold.
Non. Je sais pas vous, mais j'aurais voulu vivre cette époque, franchement, les années 80-90, c'était vraiment... Ah, il bave, Berk. C'était vraiment le nouveau monde, quoi. C'était vraiment le monde en expansion, le monde numérique, jusqu'aux années 2000, quoi. J'aurais voulu vivre cette époque, mais j'étais bébé, donc impossible.
It's Bad Boy in the map. What Biggie does, it gives the label and it gives Sean Combs
Holmes's ideas with Biggie was how can we make something that's very rowdy and of the streets, but make it so that everyone likes it? How can we do that within one song? And then you go to Juicy.
Voilà, Biggie Small.
Even though he's rhyming about standing on the corner, selling dope, we might be at a pool.
Ah putain, ça tourne en anglais, wesh. Attendez. Juicy. Pourquoi c'est anglais? Donc attendez. Traduire automatiquement. Je sais pas, c'est en français, puis après ça se bouscule en anglais. C'est trop bizarre. Ça va aller. Attends, c'était le morceau du lac Juicy. Voilà.
So Holmes's ideas with Biggie was how can we make something that's very rowdy and of the streets, but make it so that everyone likes it? How can we do that within one song? And then you go to Juicy. I never thought it could happen, this rapping stuff. I was too used to packing cats and stuff. Now, even though he's rhyming about standing on the corner, selling dope, we might be at a...
Et là, ça vire en anglais, je suis désolée. Hein. Turn your watcher down, you're up and stars. You can't turn nothing away. Don't try to tell me one. I do the dance more.
We're gonna make it look good and glamorous and fun.
Ah, je suis désolée, ça vire en anglais là. Le game director phone.
To me are what
Ah
made
merde.
him work.
Puff was definitely like, let's elevate the culture.
Ouais. Donc en fait, par rapport à ce clip, là, il voulait vraiment montrer une autre facette du hip-hop. C'est-à-dire pas le truc où il y a tout le temps des balles, des trucs, des règlements à la gangsta rap et tout ça, gangster de rue. Il voulait vraiment élever le hip-hop à un autre level. Ça veut dire, genre, l'autre, il rappe, puis les filles sont dans une piscine, tout le monde plonge. Ça, c'était vraiment l'autre facette qu'il voulait montrer du hip-hop.
In retrospect, was about elevating himself. He's in the videos. He's on the songs.
Et puis là, il dit que oui, là, il commence à chanter un peu partout. Enfin, il chante un peu chez tous les rappeurs qu'il a engagés. Et puis, les rappeurs vont chanter. Puis, il sort 2-3 mots et tout. Voilà, c'est comme ça qu'il fait. Voilà. Il fait son petit feat, quoi. Ouais, je suis Bad Boy Entertainment, quoi. Voilà. Et là, ils vont parler la côte ouest avec Tupac. Et genre, le grand directeur artistique, c'est lui, quoi. Et il a un nom, là... Diffrao. Diffrao.
Hip-hop is war. We fighting for number one. We playing real dirty. And a lot of people got hurt. Bad Boy was as hot as fish grease.
Que la braise.
It couldn't be touched. But more money, more problems, right? Everything was heightened. Backstabbing was heightened. Dishonesty, the distrust, the unloyalty, all of that shit started to unravel.
Suge Knight, he ran Death Row Records.
Fish grease, ça veut dire poisson cuit, peut-être. Fish grease. Voilà, Deep Row.
Versions of moguls. Suge Knight was a legitimate scary figure. Suge Knight goes back to jail.
Ah oui. Et puis lui, ils vont lui dire, oui, il était à chaque fois en prison, il revient, il frappe les gens, il va en prison, il frappe, il revient. Un gros dossier judiciaire, lui, genre. C'était vraiment directeur d'un plus gros label où il y avait Tupac, justement, il y a Tupac. Et c'était côté Californie, quoi. Putain.
Assault and battery. And Sean Combs, who felt a little bit more cuddly to people, right?
Et j'ai du mal à croire parce qu'il disait que Sean Combs à côté, il était vraiment doux et sans histoire. Tu parles. Il a déjà tué 9 personnes. Restriction. Putain, le live, il a sauté. Voilà, je reprends parce que mon live il va sauter, mais bon, si ça continue comme ça, je crois que je vais refaire des lives sur YouTube parce qu'ils disent qu'il y a des contenus trop violents et tout.
The East Coast West Coast beef at that time took on epic proportions.
And the two stars that we think about in that moment
Oh là
represent these two very
là.
different coasts. Tupac Shakur.
Tupac was a megastar, rapper, icon.
What a lot of people don't realize is that Death Row was trying to set up Death Row East.
They really thought they could come and take New York. And they tried.
It's unsettling to watch this Tupac video, knowing a short time later what would happen.
Coming to the East Coast to overthrow the government y'all got right now, which is bad boy. Believe in Death Row East. Believe in that, for real.
That was a bold move. The feud was so bad at that time.
C'est vraiment Tupac par rapport à P. Diddy. P. Diddy, c'est vraiment un rap pop, quoi. Tupac, c'est vraiment la Star Street de l'histoire, quoi. Vraiment le rappeur engagé, quoi. Dans les cœurs, dans les cœurs, dans les pensées et les cœurs de tout le monde. Moi, c'est ce que je pense.
Trouble throwing up the W on the East Coast.
I could have been a casualty of the East Coast West Coast beef. I came up in the music industry as a concert promoter, and one night I was at a place called PJ's up in Harlem. Some cat comes in promoting Death Row East. He has these
Oui, lui, il était occupé de faire la promotion de Bad Boy. Et à un moment, ils vont dans une voiture, je sais pas, il y a une course-poursuite, genre le mec, il a eu la peur de sa vie. Et puis lui dit, mais t'es un connard, ouais, you're coward, why do you promote West Coast East, why do you promote Tupac? Il lui disait ça comme ça, tu vois.
T-shirts, and he's giving them away. And I was like, okay, I like that. Let me get one. And I says, I threw it on. Later, we're going downtown. I'm with Lance Calfe, who is my security. We get to the club, me and my Death Row East t-shirt. It was packed. An hour later, I come out of the club. We go across the street to my Jeep. We get in, I'm in the driver's seat, and Puffy pulls up in a sports car. He's in the passenger seat. And then he said to me, "What's up, bitch?"
What's up, bitch?
I said, "Puff, man, I don't want nothing to do with you, man. Keep your drama to yourself." I really tried to de-escalate the situation.
Ouais, tu parles.
He said, "Nah, you a bitch."
No, you're a bitch, you're a bitch.
He aligned his beef with Suge Knight and Death Row and the West Coast with that t-shirt. So it's like, how dare you jump to the other side? How dare you promote Death Row? And we proceed down the block. His car.
Ah oui. Comment tu fais la promotion de ce, comme je vous l'ai dit, de ce couloir de la mort. Et là, de toute façon, là, ils vont rentrer dans le couloir de la mort. Hein.
Over and cuts me off and forces me into an island. Lance and I both jumped out of the car. A shot blasted off. Lance yells, "Gun, gun!" And I don't know who shot it. I leap over the island and now car chase. And I'm fighting for my life at this point. All I know is that I need to get away. And so I'm driving, I'm going down one-way streets, I'm on the sidewalk at one point. It's a high-speed chase through Manhattan. Just thank God I escaped that situation.
What we see is this massive overreaction and tendency towards brutal violence. If he could fly off the handle that easily over such a small perceived slight, what else was he capable of?
You asked me earlier, like, why I'm here. Like, I almost wouldn't be here, period. My whole future be erased.
Dude, you're a menace.
Pour l'humanité. Ouais.
My story is just a piece.
C'est le menace pour le society. J'aime trop.
Bigger puzzle of his mayhem.
Sean Combs has been the figure more associated with death, tragedy, and brokenness than any mogul.
He ran on fear and intimidation. It was abuse.
Combs wants what he wants when he wants it.
He was saying things like, turn around, let me see that ass.
All of a sudden, I just seen him out of nowhere, just punching.
And God said to me, be still, you're about to get hit.
I truly believe monsters are not born, they're made.
Voilà. Non, monsieur Sean Combs a toute confiance en l'intégrité de la procédure judiciaire. Donc ça, c'est les avocats de Sean Combs qui disent oui, au tribunal, la vérité triomphera. Les accusations portées contre Mr. Combs ne sont que pure fiction. Donc voilà, donc c'est la fin de cette vidéo. Je diffuserai l'épisode 2 plus tard. Je verrai si je le ferai sur TikTok ou sur YouTube. Mais honnêtement, sur YouTube, il y avait beaucoup plus de monde. Je vais continuer sur YouTube. Je vous dis très bonne après-midi. Très bonne fin de journée. Et à la prochaine. Bisous. Ciao, ciao.